Welcome to RPG Book Club. On today's episode, Jasper realizes that he was way cooler when he was only 10.
Welcome to the RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little chunk of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
I am Sam Allman.
And I'm Michael Spiffle Weapon.
And today we'll be playing Rogue Galaxy to the end of Chapter 12, All Good Things. So, before we begin, how was everyone's week?
My week was spectacular, but also horrible at the same time, because,
nice.
That's how it works. But this weekend was Summer's vacation, because she has been in mom mode, or at least, like, pregnancy mode for, like, 3 years, from, like, when we got pregnant with Sebastian all the way until now. So it's been a really long time,
right.
And she hasn't ever had a day off. So I took some days off of work so that I could stay home with Scarlett, and Summer could just go and breathe. So the good thing was, because of how last week worked with we had a party at work, and so you didn't have to go into work that day. So yeah. I didn't have to work on that Thursday, only had to work on Friday, then had off Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I had this huge, just like, chunk of time. I played a lot of Persona 5, played a lot of Rogue Galaxy, played a lot of Wild Arms, and just sat there and hung out with Scarlett, who was a monster and horrible. And Summer deserves 100% of the praise for doing this shit every fucking day.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you?
How about you, Spiffle?
It was interesting. I had a really nightmarish 2 weeks or so as far as just being super busy all the time. Because my new job is ramping up, but it's all this training, which, like, is a ton of hours, but it doesn't pay the normal. It pays like training wages. So just like really rough. But then my parents visited, and that was all the typical parent stuff, you know, like, it's nice, but also it's like, well, kind of weird sometimes. But then like a lot of people, I feel like you just get, like, you know, I'm always online and I can never log off. And like we were just talking about, and with the stuff that's been going on the border this week or the last week or so, like, there's always things to be upset about online, but this week was really rough, right? And as usual, it's not just the thing that's happening, but seeing people's awful comments about it. And how,
oh my god, yeah.
Like, people that you like know being, like, awful. And it's just really upsetting, especially because my wife, like, sort of works in the field of advocacy and social change and stuff like that. So it's not just something we're passionate about, it's also part of her literal career. So she's had to have meetings at work about it and stuff like that. So, like, you can't turn it off, you know? Obviously as a white guy, I can turn it off more than a lot of people can. But but my wife, who's Latina, you know, it's a lot harder for her, of course. It hits closer to home.
Oh yeah, totally.
So it's been rough, but video games are nice. And that's it for me.
Yeah. I got to see Incredibles 2 last night.
How was it?
Phenomenal.
Oh my god. Okay, so I don't think I've ever mentioned this. Incredibles is my absolute favorite Pixar movie.
It's the best one, so that's good.
It was 100% worth the, like, 15-year plus wait.
Good.
God,
Cool.
I think it's like pushing a 2 decades.
Yeah, 'cause
that we've been waiting.
In college, we were in one of our film classes. We were talking about how it was amazing, whatever, and we were talking about a different, because Brad Bird made this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were talking about a different Brad Bird movie in class. I don't remember what it was.
Iron Giant, maybe.
I think it was actually his Mission Impossible movie.
That one's so good. Responsible 4, yeah.
Yeah, and so we were talking about it, and we read a thing where he's like, his favorite movie that he's ever done has been The Incredibles, and he's always wanted to come back to it, but he would only do it for the new story to tell, and not do it for the fact that it's a sequel to a thing that makes toys and therefore will make him a lot of money.
Right.
Good for him.
And so when they announced it, like, part of me was like, did they come back to tell that story?
Or did they give him even more money?
Or did they give him even more money? Or like, has he not made enough movies recently and he wants to retire? Or like, what is it? Like, I was worried that the magic would be gone, but I'm glad that it's apparently not.
I honestly, based on the
all.
trailers and stuff, I had a weird feeling about it. Like, I legitimately was like, I'm not sure if this is going to be good, but I'm glad to hear you say it's fantastic. So now I'm hype and I want to go see it.
Yeah. I will say that to some extent it was predictable, but that, like, what I always keep in mind when I say things like that is I'm an adult. This is a children's movie.
Yeah.
So they might get their mind blown by some things that you're like, duh.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, I kind of called who the villain was going to be in the middle of the movie, but it was still, like, a freaking roller coaster, as it should be.
Is it Jack Jack?
Yeah.
I bet it's Jack Jack.
Speaking of
spoilers.
Speaking of Pixar and guessing things in the middle, so recently Coco came on Netflix, and me and Summer had a kid, so we couldn't go and see it in the theater. So we were finally sitting down to watch it. And if you haven't seen it, you should watch it immediately.
Oh my god, it's so good!
It's so good. But about 30 minutes in, I'm like, oh, this is going to be the ending. And I knew that was going to be the ending. I was prepared for that to be the ending. Everything was okay in my brain for that to be the ending. And then sure enough, it was the ending, and I still cried for 45 minutes.
Oh no, I knew it was going to happen, and then it happened.
Yeah. Pixar is so really, really good at that. Like, if they wanted to control us via emotional manipulation... no matter like how much we saw it coming, they absolutely would be able to do it.
I've always felt like if they had, I've always felt like at Pixar, somebody at Pixar had the idea at the end of Toy Story 3 that they would all just fucking die and they wouldn't have the Deus Ex Machina at the end. I think someone had that idea, and they were like, "What if we did that? It'd be a really bold, dramatic ending to the series." And someone raised their hand and they were like, "Y'all, we are too good at what we do. If we do that, everybody in this entire country is going to want to die. Like, we're going to, like, destroy America if we do this, so we cannot do it.
Oh my god. That was one of the most terrifying things ever, was watching those toys just huddling together, waiting to enter the fire.
Yeah, the thing is, I legit thought this was, well, I didn't legit feel like they were going with it because I knew it's a children's movie, but, like, but I couldn't think of a way for them to avoid their fate. Like, I couldn't think of a Deus Ex Machina. So I was like, I don't see any way for this to, oh my god, are they really doing this? Oh my god. Because, and like, on one hand, that would have been like the boldest thing to ever happen in movies. On the other hand, it would have I think they had to do it for, they're like, no, we can't do this. It would be immoral to do this.
But
awesome.
Yeah, speaking of Pixar and CG scenes that make you feel things, let's talk about our feelings about this Rogue Galaxy cutscene we watched this week.
It sure was one.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah. So last time I said at the very beginning that I was going to do a last time for every single one of these episodes, and I've done it on the first one or the second one, and now this last one because I'm real consistent.
Yeah, good job keeping up precedent
of Dragon Ball Z.
Well, because as a peek behind the curtain, I have a OneNote template for each game, and so I design it at the very beginning. And this one I didn't put in the last time, so every time I make a new page, it's not there, so I forget about it when I'm taking my notes. But for the next one, I'll put it in as a baked-in part of it, and everything will be great.
Yes.
But okay, so last time, Jaster learned that his parents were Johanna, the Star Queen, and Desert Claw, the absentee father without a good excuse, and Kasala learned that she was a magical space princess. Yeah.
Little bit.
And so Kasala learned that she was a magical space princess, and everyone felt their feelings, and this time we got that, but a lot more.
Yeah. Lots.
So, we hop over to the Stargate and dial out, and then Walter says that Chevron 7 is locked, and we go through to Mariglenn. That joke is for me. That joke was just for me.
Love to reference things that came out in the last decade.
Yeah, me and about 3 people probably were just like, hell yeah, Stargate references. So, when we...
It is the Fargate. You want to get sued? That's an Aqua Teen Hunger Force reference for you.
Yeah, it is.
Love it. Like, can we just can we do like a scheduled post, but make this podcast come out in like 2007? We would be a riot.
Oh, we'd be the funniest motherfuckers in the world. All right.
Anywho, so we get to Mariglenn, Eden, and it's super gorgeous. And Steve is like, I don't think we're in Wilhurser anymore. And so then right as we show up, they like roll out the Bifrost carpet to us, like this giant rainbow bridge just comes out, like leading us to their castle, and everyone's like, this feels like a trap. And then we're like, well, what choice do we have? We have to land anyways. But then a giant eldritch horror just comes from the skies and launches beasts at us, like a lot of beasts, like so many beasts,
all the beasts,
too many beasts.
So like last week we were talking about how it would be weird if the game all of a sudden had a weird tonal shift, and I know this is just a cutscene, and the plot didn't actually go this way. The plot is still like they're all friends and they love each other, but this was a big aesthetic shift, that's for sure. Like, these have been cool looking this whole game, but these are like way darker and scarier and weirder. This is some like, honestly, it reminded me a ton. I don't know if y'all played the Panzer Dragoon games or anything,
I have not.
But that's what it reminded me of. It was some like H.R. Geiger. Fucking H.R. Geiger, Mobius, Panzer Dragoon, like crazy, just outlandish shit that, like, where was this the rest of the game? It's so weird. It's like, oh, this is the planet where, like, super epic, just, like, body horror fantasy tropes happen, I guess.
So, where they actually were, and this is cool, and it's like, why did the game think of this and not like the logistics of how did this happen 10,000 years ago and Kasala's only 18? But these beasts are in the labyrinth that's been locked for the last 10,000 years. Like, those are the beasts from Mariglenn that are in there. So like the first time you run into the like skull things that are made up out of like little tiles, like those are, you find them first in the labyrinth and stuff like that. So like that, they like thematically tied these 2 places on opposite parts of the universe, and that was like really cool, like on a like an Easter egg type gameplay thing.
It's
cool.
I mean, this game definitely puts the right amount of effort in aesthetically. That's definitely the part where it's always making sure to get things right. So yeah, that consistency is really cool.
Yeah. So to take out the giant beast, we pull out our giant gun that we apparently had, and it's real cute. Simon has like
the big guns.
Simon has like a paid program type thing, like in front of like an advertisement for the big guns, and he's just like, these are the biggest, baddest guns in the galaxy, and they're on the front of our ship, and it was super cute.
It's literally a freeze frame, and it says on the screen, "The big guns." It's weird, but okay.
I love it. So we shoot it, and it shoots a giant fucking hole in the Eldritch Beast. Just like big old, like, you know in Kung Pao, the guy that fights with the middle of his stomach? Like, that's what happened to the beast. It's just a big old hole.
One thing about this cutscene is it's again, this could be a bit of a miscommunication between cutscene people and the rest of the game, but like, so many of the cutscenes have so much drama that is like unnecessary, but it's just cool. Like in this cutscene, all the beasts show up, and then it's like, let's shoot them. But then the icy beasts freeze the guns, and the electric-y beasts electric the ship so it starts sinking, and then the fiery beasts start burning the ship. So basically, it's like, you thought we were going to win, but then we get owned. But then there's a turnaround, and you end up blasting the giant hole anyway, and it works. So it's like all of this back and forth, will they, won't they drama. Like, the only actual plot beat here is they fight the beasts, they don't die, and then they land the ship. But the cutscene that has to establish that simple plot beat has like a beginning and a middle and an end, and a whole arc to it. And I'm like, they let the cutscene makers just go hog wild, even though there was no reason, and it was cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. So after or before or during, I don't know. This cutscene was really long, and I was just typing it from memory. But the small beasts that are trying to fuck up our ship, Mariglenn sends out a bunch of like the Ragnar robots from the labyrinth, but like with kick-ass wings and shit, and they come to help us. And everyone on the Dorganark is like, finally, someone loves us.
Yep.
So we finally land, and Padme Amidala comes out to talk to us, and she introduces herself as Fradius, Kasala's mom.
Frieza.
Yeah. So Kasala hugs her, and again, the cutscene people are really good at their job, and like the way that the hug like looked was like really good and like sweet, and like you could tell Kasala was like feeling something in that hug. And I'm like, typically you get like a weird, awkward, like no one knew where the collision of each of these polygons should be type thing when you see hugs in games, and I really liked it. But Dorgangoa only finds out at this point that Kasala's the princess, which brings me back to the before the heart to heart on Rosa. Kasala is just with Jaster talking after Ragnar, and she's like, "Hey, don't tell anybody I'm a princess." And then that night, when everyone's feeling their feelings after Raoul dies, she says, "Everyone, well, since I'm a princess, like we got to go up to Mariglenn." And I'm like, okay, like what did she? Like, I thought she didn't want anybody to know. She says that she doesn't want to treat people to treat her differently, but the only people who interact with her are the crew that she told. So it doesn't really make sense. I guess she just meant don't tell my dad, but in this cutscene, we obviously realize that her dad loves her enough to not care anyways. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It seemed like some wasted effort on the like, don't tell anybody, but I'm going to tell everyone anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get up to Padme's throne room, and Dorgangoa asks about 30,000 times if he can have all the treasure in Eden, and Padme's like, sure, whatever, just kill the bad guys.
Goddamn terrible pirate.
I love how he's like, I'm a pirate, we get treasure, and then apparently he thinks that the way you do that is you just waltz up to the person that probably owns the treasure, and is like, can I have it? And like, is that your normal MO? Like, has that been working for you? Like,
was that how he was going to take the tablets from Volcog? Is just walk up and
like, hey, y'all got any treasure around here? And they're like, and she's like, my personal broke, and he's like, understandable. Have a nice day.
My personal theory is that this is why he's the captain and he stays on the ship all the time, and he's really obese because like they're like, no, you just stay here and eat. We'll go do the pirating job. You just sit back and relax.
Because you mess it up every time.
If they actually let him do pirating, he screws it up. Yeah. But they can't hurt his feelings and tell him he just sucks at pirating, so they just find excuses for him to always be on the ship.
Enjoy your never-ending drumstick, and we'll go do the work.
Except it actually works this time, and Padme's just like, oh, yeah, we outgrew jewelry eons ago. You can just take it all. And he's like, go ahead.
I was gonna say, because they say to kill the bad guys, and like at this point, if every time you want to get the treasure, you don't actually steal it, you just get it as a reward for killing bad guys. You're not a pirate. You're a mercenary.
Yeah. And so he's like, can we even have the eternal soul? And then she's like, for that you have to fight Mother. And Kasala's like, Papa, cut it out. And then Padme's like, oh, you must be Kasala's dad. Thanks for raising my daughter so well. Like, you did such a good job, blah, 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 blah. And I thought that part was really touching as well.
Mm-hmm.
So then she tells us the Once Upon a Time story. And because she says that this being called Mother has the eternal soul, and once upon a time Mariglenn was advanced as heck and also was in the Wilhurser system, but then Rune, aka the stuff that they're making beasts out of at Datron, showed up and began to eat away at the system. And so to protect the system, they put Eden into a space-time cleft to hide the system and to stop the... Yeah, I'm typically more familiar with the base clef, but the space-time clef is a good alternative. But so they they lock them in the space-time cleft to hide the system and to stop the progression of Rune. So it's like stuck in a time bubble, and so Kasala's mom was actually the one alive 10,000 years ago when Eden was in Wilhurser. She said she knew that the Star King would come back in 10,000 years, and he was the only one that could kill Mother. And we're all like, good news, we got Jaster, so you're good. And she said that she left the keys with the kings of the planet so that they could act as a beacon of hope to come back. And then she says that she left. She wanted Kasala to live in a world without Rune. But why didn't that happen 10,000 years ago? Why did she, how did she get out of the time freeze to do it 18 years ago? It really doesn't, talk about how she's only 18. Maybe they're all elves and Kasala and Dorganark are actually, a bajillion years old.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe
it's one of those plot points that, is good for it to happen, but making it happen doesn't ever... You can't ever make the best sense.
One thing to me is when they say 10,000 years is when the king is going to come back, I always wonder, do they mean, when they say 10,000 years, do they mean, a long time? Or do they mean, we literally know it's going to be 10,000 years from right now for some reason? Because if they legitimately knew when it was going to be, which I don't know why they would, but whatever, they could have sent Kasala literally forward in time, right? Because her job could be to chill and hang out with the space-time Lord King God. Yeah.
And it says they're super advanced, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe they do know when it's supposed to be, and that's so far that's the answer that makes the most sense, as even though it involves time travel that has been heretofore unmentioned.
Or they actually just did it 18 years ago, because they've been there the whole time, so they chilled for 982 years, and then they fucked, and then they sent Kasala out, and then I guess the dad died immediately thereafter.
But they're in a time bubble, so time isn't progressing on Mariglenn.
Did they actually use the term time bubble the same as with the Desert City?
They use space time clef. I originally was because I thought that it was in a different dimension when I was going through and I was typing my notes. So I was looking over my screenshots to write my notes, and she specifically mentions that it's a space time clef.
I think they've experienced time. I think that from her point of view, she's been chilling for 10,000 years.
So maybe it's
it's like a pocket dimension or something.
Lives or dies. Maybe maybe nothing dies or changes, and it's just you live the same shit
Who knows?
all the time. I don't know.
Whatever.
It doesn't make the most sense. We're doing a lot of mental gymnastics to let Kasala be 18.
I do want to clarify one thing, just for people listening, because it's more clear to us than it is to people who might be listening. When we say rune, so rune is with a capital R, which we can see because it's on our notes. And what is rune? Rune is basically just the most. It's just the ultimate deep evil energy. So it's not a rune, like an artifact. Rune is their name for dark energy that is trying to overtake the entire galaxy. And this being Mother is the epitome or the personification of rune. So it's this creeping parasitic evil that will spread is what rune is.
Yeah. She calls it a parasite at one point. She's it was going to infect the entire galaxy, so we locked ourselves away to keep it from happening. And excuse me. So Dorkingo is well, Jaster is the Star King, and we still want to steal that eternal soul, so we'll go and kill Mother. Don't worry. And then Dorkingo, as he's leaving, tells Zegrim that he thinks that Padme is hot. And so now in my brain, I see this as the Parent Trap, but with an adoptive dad and birth mom, just trying to get together at the end, which would be super cute and also a trope. And this game is all about tropes, except for this chapter,
that would
so
be
it's okay
if they got together. And also, it would be an odd couple thing, because it's she's a beautiful elf and he's this weird slob.
Yeah. But like I can see, cause like in the sitcom version of Rogue Galaxy, Dorkingo would meet this beautiful lady, and then he would show up in the next scene with like his hair slicked back with like a bow tie on, like the gross version of trying to clean himself up. Like that's what's going to happen.
Let the cutscene people go crazy.
I can see it now.
And give him some
right.
Dorkingo. Wait, what's probably his actual name?
Charm.
Freedius. Okay, yeah, that's
Freedius,
right. Yeah, they should have done like a Dorkingo Freedius CG cutscene for sure.
Yeah, I would be all about that. So now that one cutscene is over, we can control our characters
frankly,
again.
I thought it was going to go longer. Fun little fact for you guys. Eli, I actually watched for the first time some of your Let's Play. Really good.
Yay!
Yeah, I enjoy it. Good stuff. I was catching up on some stuff. And you refreshing my memory. And you made a great comment here. They were like, hey, for your next mission, you have to go and talk to this guy. And you were like, oh, I bet it's just not even going to let us play. It's just going to skip to us talking to the guy. But then it actually did, and you were like, what? I'm going to go talk to you Yevon.
Yeah.
Yuvan.
Praise be to Yuvan. And Eli, I don't know why you're laughing. That's a Final Fantasy X reference.
I just thought it was funny to say praise be to Yuvan. I don't know.
It's even funnier now that you know it's a reference.
Yeah,
but
explain
all of the religious people whose god you go to kill, like they say goodbye as saying praise be to Yevon, and they do this weird arm thing that of course I did, but you can't see because this is an audio podcast.
I'm gonna imagine it's the diamond salute from Steven Universe.
Yeah, there's no problem in you believing that.
Yeah, it's not terribly far off. So on our way out, we meet Yuvan, and he says, "Oh hey, this forest has a trial for Kasala to overcome. Don't wimp out." And she's like, "I'm not scared. Bring it on." And he also says he's super glad to meet the Star King and whatever, but like, so many people have just been like, "Oh wow, you're so important," and I'm just like, I don't care. yeah, I'm a hero.
It also definitely says that Kasala is supposed to do this trial alone.
Yeah, she does.
But then that just doesn't happen.
Because like, spoilers for a little bit that I looked up in the guide. So I restrained myself. I have not beaten the game, but I was looking at the guide to see like what we were in for next week, and you get a one-on-one fight as part of the final boss with everybody. And so like that's why the Digo one was so hard. That's why the Zegger one was hard. That's why the Seed one was hard. Like they wanted that to be a theme to set you up for the end, which is cool.
I don't wanna.
But I thought that was going to be happening here because it was like, oh hey, like everyone has to go and face their demons, and hey Kasala, you have to face this alone. And so I had already caught on to they like to do one-on-one fights with not Jaster characters, and I thought that this was going to be Kasala's, but thankfully it wasn't.
I actually thought the same thing, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I guess when they say alone, they mean like we're not going to help you.
Yeah.
But your friend, but it's an RPG, so the RPG party
is one person.
a single entity that has a shared consciousness. It's kind of strange.
Usually a shared pocket.
So you, the party, as a singular unit, you have to do this alone.
It's the royal you.
Well, it's basically the like, you know, it's the holy mystery of the Trinity, you know, like is it 7 dudes or is it 1 dude? It's both.
So after the super short dungeon, it's like barely even a hallway. It's like an alcove more than a hallway.
Also, like half it doesn't even have bad guys.
It's great. But the bad guys they do have, did you fight the clumpy junior and seniors? Did you see those?
Oh yeah,
like little bitty acorns with like a bush hair, and like one of them is nice and is the shopkeeper, and it was so cute, and I wanted one.
They're really good.
Looked like a Deku scrub and a bird got it on, and
I love it.
You talk to the shopkeeper and you're like, "Hey, I just killed your friend," and he's like, "They're not my friends."
But
I don't associate with those people.
Yeah, he's like, I gave up living in this pristine forest for capitalism. Do you want to buy some stuff?
Which is basically the message of that is basically like, look, colonization is happening, and you can either assimilate or die. either become a capitalist shopkeeper, or we're going to kill you. That's how we roll.
Which is about what happens. So we make our way through the dungeon, and we see Kasala's ghost dad, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you're doing so well." In my notes, I had originally preserved the mystery, because as you walk off, Yuvan is like, "Oh, don't worry, King Albion, she'll solve your wishes." And I'm like, "Ooh, who's that? I wonder what that's going to be." And the next person you talk to in the very next cutscene is King Albion. So I'm like, yeah, it's not really a mystery there. So I'm just cutting that shit out.
This is like Ghost Dad's game. It should be called Ghost Galaxy.
Ghost Galaxy.
Ghost Dad. Nailed it.
So he says that he's happy to see she's doing so well, and he tells us that he died trying to fight Mother because no weapon can harm her unless you somehow forged a weapon from Dragellum, but that's crazy talk, and he's about to tell us how to get it, but Mother shows up and is like, "You belong to me, motherfucker, you better fight your kid." And so we fight him, and he turns into a big-ass chimera griffin thing. And how did you guys like this fight?
I think it continued the tradition. I felt like it was in line with the other upper tier fights in this game. It was beautifully animated. He had cool moves. I killed him a bit too fast, but as usual, I chilled out for a second to see all this stuff. He did, resistances where you can't just spam the button constantly. This game has the game's upper tier, like the good bosses, definitely all sort of are similar in how they're designed, and this is one that's like that, but it's not really criticism. It's good. It works. It's this game's groove.
This boss is designed around Illusion Sword. It's the only mob I've fought in the game so far, besides ones that have a shield or some gimmick like that. That Illusion Sword doesn't go through the parts that are immune to hit you and the parts it's not. So if I'm fighting a bunch of mobs and the guy in front has a shield and there's a guy without it behind him, I can Illusion Sword. It'll go through the first guy and hit the guy in the back. But this one, his butt is immune and only his face is weak, but his butt absorbs the Illusion Sword completely.
So you actually have to deal with it. You can't just go through
it. Which was
like
really cool because it made me interact with the boss. I still killed him pretty quickly, but I had to watch my healing and stuff like that more closely than normal. So this made me do the bare minimum of RPG management, which means it's better than most of the bosses in the game. But
yeah, it was nice.
Anything you wanted to say about it, Eli?
No, I pretty much had similar thoughts of I had to point out to Ken that hitting his ass wasn't working even with Illusion Sword, and you needed his face. He's like, "Oh, I didn't even notice," and finally he saw I was doing no damage. So
one thing. Oh, so
you hit his ass. It's like in SpongeBob when the flounder's trying to kick his butt and he just keeps punching him, but it's just squishy. It's like you keep hitting the butt, but it's just so absorbent. You can't do anything.
Yep.
So after the fight, her dad says this is such a throwaway thing, and it's one of the darkest, coolest parts of the game so far. He says that he's been trying to commit suicide, but his life isn't even his own to take anymore because Mother controls him so much. So the only way he could die is to be slain by someone else. So this was him just begging Kasala for the sweet release of death. And this is kind of cool.
Okay.
This is really dark, but one way to make someone who's feeling suicidal even more depressed is for them to fail at suicide.
Yeah.
So,
super
Imagine
dark.
that for 10,000 years.
Yeah. So
also, before we move on, I gotta say the way they use Mother all the time as that's her name, it just reminds me of the guy from Futurama who's just Mother, and then also what's his name, Buster from Arrested Development. It's I feel like this is actually all of their moms, and they just have weird mom issues. Oh no, mother wouldn't like that. Oh, I have to do it for Mother. Oh, Mother is so cruel.
That's beautiful.
Someday I want to marry a woman like her.
This does remind me of something that me and somebody was talking about in the Discord. Matt. It was always Matt. Why did I even have to look it up? It's always Matt. But we were talking about how every game specifically both games we've played so far has the mother as the final boss.
Oh god,
like,
that's right.
Is that like part of like a Japanese mythology thing that's like a reference to something? Like, is there something in Japanese that makes mother the bad thing? Because like in Wild Arms as well, the main driving force right now is we're trying to stop mother from coming back from all of her things. And so like I don't know if I picked the 3, but I also know that there are 3 games called Mother 1, 2, and 3, and so I don't know if those are related-ish.
Do not apply.
Okay.
No, not really.
Fun thing about that series, it only makes sense why the series is even called Mother if you play the first one, and even then it's very abstract. The word mother gets recontextualized in the third one to mean something different, but that's not what it was really supposed to mean. It's very interesting, but I do think maybe it's like in Persona 3 at least, it's sort of not, in Persona 3 at least, it's kind of like a I brought you into this world and I can take you out of it sort of situation, but not in this game. I don't know.
So I don't know, like I wonder if it's just like if there's just something cultural about like a scary like mother figure, like the chancla wielding mother type thing, and like that's what they're all getting at, or if it's like a mythology thing. I could probably Google it, but I don't really know the good search terms to get me like a good article about it. But it's definitely something I've noticed because 3 of the games I've played in the last 2 months, the main bad guy has been just called Mother. Well, technically in Persona it was the maternal being, but their localization was really good.
Same thing.
So as Ghost Dad dies, a glowing pink pearl pops out, and he says that that's the Dragellum of kindness, and it's Kasala's, and the Dragellum comes out whenever you face your inner demons, and he says that if we get some for all of our allies, we may be able to forge a sword, and that luckily this door right here by where we fought leads to the Gulsa Sanctuary that's like haunted by your inner demons. Like there's stuff in there that will make you have to face your inner demons, so go and do that because that's how you'll fight Mother. So we head off to do that. And this next dungeon is super duper short, but super duper long at the same time because it's only 2 rooms. You have your first hallway and then your second room, like actually not a hallway. Technically, it's a room made out of hallways, but but like you have your second room, and that room is shaped like a spider-ish, and it has 9 exits. The one you came into, the one that leads off to Mother's dungeon, and then 1 for each party member. And at the end of each leg of the spider, you get a scene that wraps everybody's like personal story up, and it's super cool. Some of them aren't super cool. Some of them are just like, this could have been so much better, but for the most part, I actually I really liked almost all of them, which was really cool.
Even the ones that weren't interesting, like plot wise, they still were nice because it's like this game's whole thing is that everyone's just really sweet and positive and likes each other, and it just hammered that in. It's just like, oh, everyone is so sweet. Oh, they all love each other. Oh, they're so supportive. Oh. and even when it's being a little boring or uninteresting, it's still nice, you know?
And so I was going to put this after the first 3 that I go over, but after you get 3 of them, a cutscene happens, which Mother comes down as like this flying cobra thing, and she's like, well, I'm going to kill you now so you can't forge a sword to kill me. Like, that's obviously what I'm going to do.
Smart.
And but then motherfucking Burton, I didn't mean to call it, but I fucking called it, that Burton was going to show up in this alternate dimension.
Oh my god. That was the funniest thing.
So Burton shows up and is like, oh, hey, what's up? And he's riding on Ragnar, and Ragnar puts up a huge shield around the spider area to keep us safe from Mother so we can go and forge the sword. And it was hilarious. I literally busted out laughing when I saw Burton. I was like, God damn it, I didn't want to be right.
I think it would have been funnier if he'd also died again. But he gets to have his little victory. How do you feel about Mother's design? I think it's cool.
Mother's, I like it so far. Like it's like a cobra, really but it's like little. It's like a 4-inch cobra, but with like 3 inches of that is the cobra head, and
Yeah, it's like you have a head and then a tail, but the tail only goes for like a little bit and then it's done and it just hovers.
Yeah.
And it's very strange.
Yeah, I really liked it. It's so different from everything else in the game so far, and
It's got like a zillion eyes.
Yeah.
Which is always good.
So yeah, let's talk about the ending of everybody's story and feel all of our feelings.
Yeah, let's go in the order you wrote them. So start with Digo.
We'll start with Digo. So he's drinking at with Gale at Angela's bar again, and then Gale gives him the officer's coin, and he says, "Hey, remember our promise we made back in the day that we would take each other's coin off of our dead bodies if we fell in battle, so to like keep as a keepsake to remember each other by. So remember when I gave it to you when I was going off to fight Moriarty, when I said there's only one place that will accept me? We joked that we didn't know what it was, but I think Eli threw it away, that it was like, oh, maybe he just means he's going to commit suicide, and that's kind of what he was doing. He was like, well, these people have wronged me. I'm going to go and attack them, and I'm just one guy taking everybody on. I doubt that I'll win, but if I do die, I'm going to keep my promise to Digo anyways, and gives him that coin, which is super cool. Mm-hmm. And Digo's is the only one that has a reward besides the Dragellum, but his is the only one that has a reward at the end of it. The officer's coin that you've had since Gale died turns into the keepsake coin, which you can plug into his revelation flow to have it maxes your attack for the whole party, is the move that it unlocks, which is super cool.
It's real sick. Also kind of funny that he's like, he had this coin all along, and I'm imagining, so the revelation flow is like an abstract concept that you for some reason put items into. Mm-hmm. But I'm just realizing it's totally like it's like a freaking captcha log is what it is. It's like this abstract thing, except you can still like literally interact with it and reach into it and just take it. So anyway, Digo's trying to put the coin to his captcha log and it's just not fitting, and he's like, oh, it just won't fit. And then he just like remembers that the coin is actually a keepsake, and now it fits.
Yeah. And like the narration even is like, it's weird, nothing's different about the coin, but it slides in just fine this time. And I'm like, slides into what?
It's like, ever y'all played Jammer Lammy?
I have a little bit. I haven't like beaten it or nothing.
You know, and she's like, oh, that's right, the guitar is in my mind. She's like, oh right, the coin was in my heart all along.
Yeah. So after you finish one of their cutscenes, thankfully it cuts the dungeon in about half, and it just teleports you back to the center hub. So
which is nice.
So
not that it was that much anyway, but yeah.
So one thing I did, because I knew that I was over leveled because I had like 100%ed a lot of the game so far. I just would turn on Whirlwind, that gives you double movement speed in battle, so that when I would get into a battle, I would just run to the opposite end of it to cut out that walking time that would have been there, and then run from the battle on the far side. Or if it was something that I could take out with one AoE, there's a lot of stuff that you can't in this one. So if it was something I could take out with one AoE, I would say keep fighting on the other end and then throw up my AoE and then keep running. But yeah. So the next one I got to was Jaster's, and he comes up to that scene we've seen a bunch of times of Raoul and Jaster stargazing, and
I love this scene. It was funny to me.
Like Jaster's kind of been a piece of shit. Like, he's not been like a bad person, but he hasn't been worth a video game for most of this game.
And then he literally just gets owned by his younger self, like just completely demolished.
Yeah, it's great.
Like the stuff we did last episode and this episode like makes me really like Jaster, and it's one of those things that I'm like, no wonder all of these people told us that Rogue Galaxy was going to be great, because like I guessed, the last like 4 chapters are so good and so everything that all of the like meh that happens beforehand you just completely ignore. Like, yeah. It's crazy, but
it took us 65 hours to get here, but my God, it's finally good.
Yeah. So like that does make it like hard for me to like recommend it to people, because I'm like, you got to sit through 40 hours and then it shines.
The issue that is addressed in the cutscene, as we'll discuss in just a moment, it was literally my number one very first complaint about the game is that Jaster's boring and his dream is stupid, and there's so much interesting stuff going on, all this interesting political, economic, and like war and all this cool stuff happening, and he just doesn't give a shit because he wants to go to space. That was my very first issue with this game, and I think it's surprising and hilarious that they actually address it here at the very end of the game.
So this is the part where Raul says, I'll wait for you. Excuse me. This is the part where Raul says, I'll wait for you here on Rosa instead of going to space with you, which when Raul died, Jaster, like, his Simba moment was like, you said you'd always wait for me. And it was like super touching. It's like seeing that happen, like, in the moment was like really heartbreaking and great. So then Raul and Boy Jaster turn around and are like, are you going to sit down or are you just going to fucking watch us, you weirdo?
And that's when I realized, I was like, so this is like a combination vision, dream, but also Raul is dead. So that's why he's able to interact. So I know this is twice in one episode, but it made me think about Homestuck. It's these weird dream bubbles. It's like, that's how all of them are too. Like all of them is like, what's reality? Are these people really seeing them? It's very strange. And that becomes even stranger when we get to Steve's a little later. Anyway, it's the metaphysics are very interesting.
So Man Jaster comes to sit next to Boy Jaster, and Raul's like, oh, hey, this is you when you grow up, and you finally got to go to space. How is space? And he was like, oh, it's great. My favorite part about it is space. And Boy Jaster is like, that's it? You just want to go to space? That's fucking stupid. I don't want to go to
space. Sucks, dipshit.
He's like, I don't want to go to space. I want to change the universe. I want to stop capitalism, and I want to, like, save everybody because there's no food on Rosa, and out in space maybe I can find like a plant that will solve world hunger here on my home planet. You just want to go and see stars, you fucking dipshit.
Yeah, he's literally like, A, everyone's starving on my planet, I want to help them. B, every planet's got problems and I want to help fix everyone's problems on all the planets, and I want to save the world. And he's like, and then the older Jaster is like, oh my god, I used to want to be cool. And then I forgot, and now I just am an idiot who wants to go to space. Holy shit.
But like, Jaster says, he's like, my childhood dreams are going away one by one, or something like that. And it like reminded me of like the idea that like, because I was talking recently, because I got $100 from something, and I was like, when I was a kid, I would look at this $100 and be like, this is 100 Dr. Peppers. My life is great. But now I look at that, and I'm like, that's about half of my phone bill. And I'm just like, all of this like wide-eyed wonder that you had when you're a kid like goes away at some point, and like no amount of the fact that I still watch Digimon will ever bring all of it back, type thing.
Yeah, there is definitely something to be said for the general idea of like, if you could talk to your child self, would they think that you suck and that you didn't live up to any of their dreams? Which is like,
yes,
they're in real life, I have sympathy for that, because it's like the pressures of reality get in the way, and it's hard, and you grow up and you find better dreams. But in Jaster's sense, it really is like, he used to want to be cool, and then he forgot and just became a selfish idiot.
At the very, very beginning opening cutscene of the game, he's going out hunting and capturing the Mish and bringing back like the tiny bit of food. And so I feel it's like capitalism knocked the dream out of him. He had to go and work and to support Raul and the church and all that stuff. He couldn't go. And like, so his dream got warped from taking care of the whole planet to like taking care of the stuff he had control over, and he couldn't do that. Like, he couldn't go and be space guy anymore because he had to do that stuff. And
that's a nice read. Yeah. I just think he's a big old dummy.
Mean, I'm not taking away the fact that he's a dummy.
No, that is nice.
But like, because like I had a mental breakdown recently, of course, because it's 2018. That's what happens. But
that's what we do.
I was just like,
out here.
Oh, like everything I do is to take care of Summer and Scarlet. Like every single decision I make comes back to them because like they're so important to me. And so like I can't just like, oh, I really want to make a video game. I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to get a loan and I'm going to start a company and I'm going to make a video game and I'm going to hire people to make it, because like that can fail. and if it fails, Summer and Scarlet like don't get to eat, and that's not cool. And so like I don't get to have all these dream stuff because like I have to take care of my day to day. And so like I could see like Jaster's like journey down that path. He still is a loser for then the first time a spaceship is like, hey, come to space. He's like, you know what? Fuck Raul. He can get his own food. I'm going to fucking space. But it's I could see like how it happened to Jaster. I still think he's a big old dummy, but it felt real in a way that this game has felt tropey before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I totally get it. I mean, if I wasn't married and planning on, having a family at some point in the future, I mean, pretty often I'm like, I could just take off and go to Levantia, which is the easternmost city in all of Russia. It's the one that's like that Sarah Palin could see from her house. And like, it's like 1,000 people, and be a freaking like literally just be a sailor or a fisherman or whatever the hell. Yeah, but I'm like, well, can't do that now. I don't think Melissa would be into it. They probably don't have Instagram there.
So yeah, he realizes that he sucks and he wants to be true to Boy Jaster's dream, and thankfully he's been given the keys to the universe so he can go and do that. So for Zegrams, we see Rose. Her name is Rose, right?
Zegram is Jane.
I don't remember either.
Jane, that's it. Jane.
And I don't think they're married.
It's like weird.
They're a couple. Definitely. But...
It just seemed like a typical sort of vague video game anime girlfriend situation where you're not really sure, but they're meant to be.
So we see her like sitting on a bench, like Forrest Gump style, waiting on Zegram. And this old man walks up and is like, "Ooh, baby, want some fuck?" And she's like, No. She's like, "I'm on a journey to find happiness with my companion." And she points over to Zegram, that our Zegram is like a ghost boy sitting right next to Rose. And he looks over and sees actual Zegram like walking towards him. And it's like this weird, like, oh, I'm outside of my body this time. Jaster was outside of his body, could interact. This one, he was outside of his body, couldn't interact. Digo was inside of his body. The metaphysics, like we said, is kind of weird and all over the place.
Very odd.
So, the old man's like, oh, okay, he looks like he's a fine young man, and I can tell that he makes you happy. And then a beast comes down, like a giant bird, comes to attack the old man, and so Jane pushes the old man out of the way, and the bird lands on and starts eating Jane instead.
It's very sudden.
Yeah, and so Zegram only sees that she was killed by the beast and not that she saved anyone. So he then realizes that her death wasn't in vain, and he finds peace with her dying and also admits that he loves her for the first time ever. And yeah, that's why they probably weren't married, but definitely had a couple connection going on.
Yeah, totally.
So then,
and I figured that was the case when she had been mentioned before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for Steve's, we see Dr. Potpourri drinking his ass off and fucking around in his lab. And Steve is like, well, still in morning. Guess you didn't learn anything. But then Ghost Mark, shows up and is like, nah, look. And then Fellatio goes to the back of his lab and like opens up this panel, and there's like a Reploid there, like straight out of Mega Man, like humanoid robot. And Steve is like, well, look, he's going to make you another body. Didn't he learn anything? And Mark is like, dude, like, no, it's...
That's what I thought, too.
I did, too. I was with Steve this whole time.
Yeah.
And Mark is like, no, it's for you. He always saw you as his son, and he knew that you wanted to be treated like it. So he put me in your brain to help you learn how to be human for this project. But he got distracted by the whole talking to his ghost son thing, so he got lost in the sauce. But now he's working on it again so that Steve and Boccaccio can go on adventures together as father and son. And it was like... it made all the Mark stuff like worth it. Like I ended up liking this one a whole lot. Like even
that's the first one I got, and I was like, "Oh, this is real good." Actually, they love each other so much.
And like
he too wanted you to be a real boy, Steve.
The only thing, and like I get it, but also he made it a little boy's body and not like a teenager body or anything.
That was a little weird.
So it's like Steve has gone on these adventures and literally fought like eldritch horrors, but now he's going to be a 10-year-old boy.
Also, it is a little funny when he says that when Mark tells Steve that Steve always wanted to be a real boy, Steve's kind of like, oh yeah, I guess I did. Is this a deep-seated desire, or did you just like kind of forget?
Everyone forgot their childhood dreams, including the robot.
Yeah, including the robot who has no childhood and presumably can't forget.
Well, you see, what it was is he forgot that it was his dream because he was accepted by all of his friends on the Dorgan arc, and he didn't have to change to be good for his friends.
That's true.
But then it's like, no, it turns out you do have to change to be accepted.
So
and then the dad's like, I'm proud of you, son. Now we are a family.
This game is so easy to make Portal 2 references on. I can't imagine playing this game before Portal 2. Like, I couldn't have done it.
That's why it wasn't appreciated in its time.
Right?
There was no Portal 2 at the time, that's true.
Yeah. So, the next one that I went to was Jupus's, and we see the coffee scene again, but we see it from the point of view of the intern, and turns out...
Who is a total sweetie, it turns out.
He's a total sweetie. He wasn't working for Datron. He just knew that Jupus had made a mistake, and Jupus was an egotistical asshole and wouldn't listen, and if they would have gone through with Jupus's plan as written, it would like destroy all of Zerard. So the intern used the coffee to sabotage both the research and his career. But he's like, look, I don't care if I never work again. I want to live. So he blew it up, and then Jupus realizes, like, he picks up the paper and he looks and it's like, oh, there it is, like a big ol' like forgotten semicolon that would have ended the whole world, but I didn't see it because of my pride and my ego. But don't worry, intern, when I get back to Zerard, I'll hire you again and we'll work together and solve everything. And
this one made...
Which, metaphysically, was he actually there, the intern?
So I can just imagine...
Because this time the intern's not dead in this one. He's not a ghost. So, like...
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I can just imagine, like... Jupus has this breakthrough with fake intern, and then he goes back to Zerard, and the intern hates him. And the intern actually was like, "Oh no, like yeah, I was like saving you from all the stuff, but then you fucking fired me. I don't want to work for you. That's a hostile work environment."
This one. Sorry, I was gonna say this one.
Oh no, I was gonna say I love this one. That's fine. Go on.
Yeah. This cutscene actually made Ken cry.
Yeah,
like of all of them, like this was the one he got the most emotional over. It was really sweet.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Because like this character that literally showed up one time, it was just like a plot point. It turns out it's like this, you know, like really, really cared for Jupus, and the whole theme of like someone was always there for you and you didn't really notice is sort of a nice. I like that little bit.
I do too.
Yeah, to speak on that, I'm actually going to skip in our notes the next one and then go do Simon's and then come back because one of them doesn't fit that mold and it's awesome for it. So we'll go to Simon. If you're counting, you know that one's Lilica. I don't know why I didn't just say Lilica's. So for Simon, sure enough, we see that he is the dad to the poor people, but
what a twist!
He was nearly killed in an explosion at work, and his mole face is not a mask; it's like a creepy, like mole-shaped robot face to keep him alive, which is like super metal and awesome. But
it's a Deadpool situation.
Yeah, but he thinks that he's super ugly, and then his wife is like, "No, like we're your family. We love you way more than anything, even if you're a weird, freaky mole robot." And so she just wants him to come home, and so he promises to do that. So now we're past the part where I was spoiled, so I can tell you how I was spoiled on this cutscene right here. So I was looking up all of the costumes to find out where they were because Eli and Ken have that purple badass Kasala outfit. I'm like, I want that. Where do I find it? And the wiki didn't just list them by their names because their names wouldn't have spoiled it. They showed a picture of all of them. And for Simon, the one that you get for clearing out whatever the 100% thing for Simon is with Mio. His is Sho. You get to play as Sho. And I was like, well, damn it.
I found that.
That's really funny.
I actually did find that out and was trying to keep it secret as well. Like, I didn't want anybody to know that I'd been spoiled on it, but I still fucking called it early on. But yeah, Ken was like, I found out about Simon.
Like, I knew he had either was Sho or had killed Sho because of like the way he acted at the very beginning when you see the poor people and he's just like, yikes, gotta get out of here. I'm like, he's involved
incredibly
somehow.
Conspicuous. Yeah.
This whole subplot was weird. The worst part is in the scene when she says that she had a feeling that she knew what was going on because they informed her that he'd been disfigured. It's like literally someone came up to her and were like, hey, your husband survived, but his face got fucked up and he's really ugly now. So if you never see him again, it's probably because he thinks he's too ugly. And I'm like, wait, she knew that? Like, that's so, like, this is Simon, again, with this game having absentee people with extremely poor excuses.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even handled as well as it is in Deadpool. Mostly because in Deadpool, you know, he has his whole, in the movie at least, he has his whole, like, I can't be with you, I'm too ugly. He has that for the length of, like, one movie, which is, in the space of the game, of the movie's world, like, it's like a week. Yeah. It's like, after he gets out of the lab, it's like a week before the movie is over and he gets with her. But this was, like, presumably years.
Yeah.
Like.
It's crazy. One thing that, like, it made me, like, upset about Simon's thing is this would have been a good reveal, but besides the fact that, like, we were spoiled on it or whatever, if Simon himself would have interacted with this family, because as it is now, this is a resolution to that family subplot that turns out involves Simon. It's not really a resolution to Simon's plot. Like, Simon doesn't, like, Simon, like, has a conflict, resolves that conflict in the length of this cutscene because of the fact that he's not there for the rest of the time. So it's like with Steve, we got all of his character development since they couldn't happen in the plot. We got his in the meanwhiles, but Simon's, we technically got his, but from the opposite side. So it didn't even matter on his side of it until right now. And so it was like,
it's pretty much just like I guess that happened.
Yeah. So like, if Simon would have, like, all he would have to do is be in those scenes and interact with those scenes. Like, even if it was the bad version, which is the variation on the, well, yikes, got to get out of here. And so it's just like question mark until this point. But like, he could have, like, supported them, but not, like, revealed who he was, but just like, oh, we're hungry. And he's like, well, here's some food. She's like, thank you, mister. Who are you? And he's like, oh, my name's Simon, who can say, or something. Like, it could have made Simon a much better character, but like here at the end, it just like happened.
Yeah, like what if he had a scene with the son where he's like, oh, it's going to be okay, or the daughter, he's like, oh, it's going to be okay, I'm sure your dad loves you very much, you know, or something like that. And then it's like, oh, it's sweet, they're bonding, he doesn't know who it is. But in this case, it's just like, oh, it turns out it was Simon.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yes.
Simon sucks. I'm glad he was never in my party.
Yeah. Also, I didn't even realize my joke in the notes here. So I wrote Show Nuff, and I forgot that his name was Show, which was great. But Show Nuff, he's dad to the poor people. Man, I'm accidentally funny way more than I am on purpose. But so for Lilica's, she bucks the trend, and she comments on how she's bucking the trend, and it's super cool. So we see the sun god attack again, but Lilica doesn't learn anything from it. She looks, and everything happens exactly how it is. And she's like, well, I guess I just suck. There's no, like, hidden truth here. Like, what's going on? And then her mom shows up and is like, you can't blame yourself. Sometimes bad things happen, and there's not always something, like, secretly good about the bad thing.
There's not always a twist.
Yeah.
But you took this bad thing and then became the best warrior that Bukake Village has ever seen. And your courage to go on even in this dark time. Sorry, I was so close.
It's just so.
Can't get it past
it's
me.
so funny. It's so funny every time.
Funny.
I am 12. This is funny.
She's like, and your courage to go on, even with this dark time behind you, is amazing, and you should be proud of yourself. And Lilica realizing like how awesome she is on her own volition is what gives her Dragellum, which is way different than all the others, and I really, really liked it. But only after I thought about it. Like, I was sitting there mashing the screenshot button on my PS4, just like, this is dumb. Like, what's different? I don't get it. But then, like, as I was typing my notes, it clicked, and I was like, oh, wait, that's actually really fucking cool.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like Lilica's the most emotionally mature person in this damn party.
What a shock, right?
Yeah. So then after that, there's thankfully no boss fight this chapter. It was all cutscene, no boss fight. So we walk over to talk to Juvan, and he makes us the legendary 7-star sword, Zero Synchros, which is super baller. It's probably the coolest ultimate weapon that, like, because it's ornate, but not in the, like, Kingdom Hearts Final Fantasy way that it's like it has wings and like chains and like impractical stuff on it. Like, it looks like a sword, but it looks like a badass. It looks
like an extremely cool ass sword that somebody would actually make if they wanted to make a cool ass sword that could be used for actual sword combat.
Yeah, I really liked it. But I then went and did all of the hunts for and got to number 1 on the battle recorder and all of that stuff.
Oh, good for you. Look at
when
that.
you get to number 1 and you go talk to Mio to turn it in, she gives you Desert Claw's outfit. So I'm playing as Jaster Desert Claw now, which is cool.
Nice.
Aw, just like your old man.
Yeah. When you beat the one for to do all of the quarries, I think you get one for Lilica, and it's boring. So,
damn.
Yeah, her. I think it actually was called like Slave Outfit or something like that. The one you were talking about last time is the red armor one, which is the coolest one, and I put her back.
Yeah,
in
that's
it.
the one
so
we have.
You don't have to beat all the quarries in order to get to number 1.
If you beat all the quarries, you will get to number 1, but you can get to number 1 without beating all the quarries. Yes.
Oh, cool! I figured you had to do like everything.
When I got number 1, I had like 2 quarries left, and my battle recorder is like half full tops, so it's not that hard to get number 1.
Oh, neat! Yeah. I see. Okay, that's a little more doable than I thought. I might get back on that.
Yeah, just go do the quarries, and you'll be like way on your way to getting the Desert Claw thing. And then on top of that, they give you a crap load of experience and stuff like that. So they're all easy, and then they give you like $5,000 experience, so it's pretty great. But yeah, that was it for the week. What was everyone's favorite part?
That big old cutscene. I mean,
yeah,
it was so good. It owned. Yeah.
What about you, Eli?
I really liked seeing everyone's stories come together. There were some that I felt like we didn't get enough time with them, and I wish we could have spent more time with individual characters. Like, part of the issue that I see with this game focusing solely on Jaster is that we don't really get to know the other characters quite as well. And along with that, there's so many characters.
Yeah.
But where there's other games like Final Fantasy VI, where there's a crap ton of characters.
Yeah.
But you spend a lot more time with them individually.
Well, that's also what you can do when your game is really big budget, and you can be like, the back half of the game is literally just character subplots.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to get to see their stories really, really come together. But, I wish that we had gotten more time with others.
Well, this whole dungeon smacks to me of, we would have liked to do a Final Fantasy VI thing and give these characters more elaborate quests, but we weren't able to. So now we're just going to have a dungeon where we explain everything.
Yeah.
That's what it spoke up to me, for sure.
What I think would have solved this game, like 100%, they could have changed nothing else, preferably changed the Jungle Planet, but they wouldn't even have to, and it would have saved this game, is if it had like the Tales series type skits in it. In Final Fantasy IX, they call them something else, but like nice. Where you're going and you're walking along the jungle planet, and then you just have you can press select at a certain spot, and it will go to a scene and you'll just see character moments going on, because like all of these people joining their plot, they're on this plot together and going and doing this adventure, like they sold all of that to me. Like the only one that was a little weak was Digo, but like it was still okay. And so like I get that while they're on this thing, but I don't care about them as individuals that much. Doing the skits would have made me care about them like exponentially more, so that then seeing those characters have a character moment to end the game with, I thought would have been like perfect.
Yeah. Or they could have made it. There's two other ways they could have done it. They could have when you're walking around, the characters are constantly talking, but all they're ever saying is like, "Let's go, guys!"
Yeah.
And we're going the wrong way. What if they actually said lines that actually mattered?
Yeah.
And then secondly, another thing they could have done is like character scenes while you're in Jericho or while you're in a dungeon. That's it could have worked, but. Or whenever you go back to the Jorgen arc between like every chapter, do like a Mass Effect thing where like if you want to, you can go talk to this person and get a little bit instead of their NPC dialogue just being completely nothing. Either the NPC dialogue is like they tell you about their life, or you get a sweet little cut. Like little optional cut scenes that happen. I just want to have these characters hanging out. Like, hanging out, sharing about their lives.
Like it's obvious that they do, and they like since chapter 8 when we have the like mixed up parties in each of the cutscenes, like you can tell all of them are having a blast, all of them like riff off of each other and all of that stuff, but we just don't get to see it firsthand, and seeing it firsthand I think would fix all of the plot pacing of this game.
It is it's just a classic show don't tell thing. We're just told that these people are friends,
right?
And that they're having a great time. Also, the whole like subplot where you go to the optional planet, and it's like we're gonna have a vacation, but it ends up being adventure. They forgot the whole vacation part.
Yeah.
After you finish the adventure, they could have totally had like a swimsuit anime cutscene. I mean, that's a dumb trope and I don't like it, but at least it would have been some character of seeing them having fun on the beach.
And that about does it for the week. If you like what you hear and you want to help us cover hosting costs and game costs, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/rpgbookclub. If you want to talk to us, we have a Twitter at rpgbookclub, an email at rpgbookclub@gmail.com, and our favorite, our Discord, which doesn't have a catchy URL, so you can find the link in the description. Join us next week when we will play to the end of the game. We will do a live recording of the episode in the Discord on Wednesday, the 27th of June at 9 p.m. Central. So come and join us and ask us questions. We also have a movie night party in the Discord this Saturday, the 34th.
I updated it, but I think my internet went out right as I updated it.
The 23rd is actually the Saturday.
The 23rd. Not the 34th.
The 34th.
So you should come watch movies with us. It's going to be great. We'll have a lot of fun.
I know we're watching Treasure Planet. We might be watching Guardians of the Galaxy. It might end up being Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2 because that's the one that's on Netflix.
That's more relevant.
Yeah, so we'll watch something. We might just watch Glass Fleet the anime all day. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But we'll think of something and we'll have it in the Discord for a party.
Awesome. For RPG Book Club, I've been Elias Sailor Eli Warren. Oh, there it freaking updated finally.
I see it too.
And I've been Sam Allman, the person whose internet has tried to kill this episode about 5 times.
And I'm Michael Spiffle-Weapon, who is just a goody good boy who never causes anyone any problems.
All right.
I doubt that. All right.
No, it's not. It's a big lie.
Toodaloo.
Love you. Bye.
Bye, folks.
Bye. Hey guys, Sam here. So we got distracted by my internet going out like 5 million times and all the other stuff in this episode to announce that the poll ended for our Patreon to pick what our next game is, and the winner is Sailor Moon, Another Story. So yeah, congrats all around to Sailor Moon. And yeah, it's The fan translation we're using is the one by Fusoya. It's pretty much the main one you find out there, so you should probably be on the same fan translation as us. You should be able to find it pretty easily. It's been around since like 1999, so it's a pretty common patch. But yeah, once you acquire the ROM and apply the patch and load it up in an emulator of your choosing, you can join us. The first episode will play through chapter 1, but I'm sure we'll talk all about that on our live episode next week. Anywho, goodbye.